Hey Firestarters, are you looking for a new way to listen to the Luminous Mind? Try listening on Stitcher. Haven't heard of Stitcher? Think of it as radio on demand. You can listen to the Luminous Mind anytime, anywhere. There is no downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Just stream your favorite podcasts such as the Luminous Mind. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad, and also from your favorite internet browser. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And make sure you rate and review the Luminous Mind so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.
What comes back beyond imagination? Now I'm addicted to the inspiration. CC Mix It is a brand new nation. Brand new nation.
Welcome back to the Luminous Mind with Talon Windwalker of OneDadOneKid.com. So what are some successes that you've seen with this type of lifestyle and learning?
It's been really interesting. I've seen him grow quite a bit. His anxiety went severely down. Initially, when we first left, we started, after we'd been kind of settled in a place, so a couple months in, I started tapering down his anxiety medication, and he went off of his medicine until he had adolescence, and then puberty, which is common, restirred some stuff up. But for that long time, he needed nothing. And when I first got him, he was very dependent. He could change his clothes and feed himself. That was about it at 6. And was scared of everything. And now I'm like, let's scale some of this adventurous spirit back. We're the Oasis in Morocco, and because he bounces, he'll usually bounce ahead of me for a little bit and then stop and wait for me to catch up. And he'd turn the corner. And when I turned the corner, I didn't see him. And I looked up, and he had climbed up a electric pole.
Oh my gosh.
So he's very adventurous, very adrenaline junkie. So, that just right there is a huge difference. Before, where he was kind of almost afraid of his own shadow. So now he's much more, like I said, we could scale that back, giving me a heart attack. And the level of independence has been absolutely amazing. When we lived in Honduras, we were on a small island for 8 months. And because it was a small island, we knew everyone pretty much. He had free reign, so he was free to play and use his imagination and just do whatever. And so that level of independence did phenomenal things for his growth and development, problem solving and everything like that, almost to the point where I was kind of like, he was so independent, I was kind of feeling left out because he didn't need me as much.
That is hard as a parent.
That's not supposed to happen until you're a teenager. So let's, you need to need me a little bit more. Okay. That was huge. His ability to communicate with other people. We're in a restaurant or store, or whatever. He has no problem just going up and talking to someone. Language barrier, what language barrier? He doesn't care. He can work around it, get his thoughts across. He, does circumlocution. He figures this all out. And so that level of independence has probably been one of the greatest things. He's so much in other countries. The U.S. tends to be kind of a nanny state.
Yeah.
We're seeing it more where, you can't even walk a block to the park by yourself. My God.
Yeah. That's frustrating.
They would die in March. I went to Thailand for almost a week, and he stayed home alone in Romania. So he had some friends by phone that he could call if he needed anything. And, we had some adult friends that he could connect with if he needed anything, and they were aware and they were ready and available if he ever needed. And I was in touch with him daily, but I could not have done that if he was in the States. I wouldn't have felt comfortable, number one, but his level of independence and his problem solving skills and things like that, I don't have that concern because he's not the typical 13-year-old in terms of what, some of his friends' level of maturity is. It's very different. But that level of independence and being free to just go out and do things and not need your father there to hold your hand and to experiment things like that is huge. Also, inflexibility. I mean, traveling, you have to be flexible when you travel, period. I don't care if it's a 2-week holiday. Things come up, plans change, flight delays, whatever. You have to be flexible. And when you're doing it permanently, we've been full time for over 4 years now, 32 countries, 6 continents. You learn to just kind of go with the flow because that's what you have to do. And you learn to communicate with pretty much anyone, even if you can't speak the same language. And you learn all the commonalities that actually do exist. We're a lot more like each other than we're different.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I love about it is that he doesn't view people from that myopic cultural view. He's learned that people are basically friendly and good. There's a few stinkers, and that where you go, people, we all tend to have kind of the same desires. We want for our family, we love our family, we want their best, we want to be able to eat and have shelter, and we share a lot more in common than we do in terms of differences. I don't care what culture we've been into. There are so many commonalities that just blow the other stuff away. So those are all things that I've seen in him, and just the way that he views events, people, and the world is exactly what I was hoping for. I wanted him to have a global perspective rather than a regional one.
Yeah.
And that certainly he has that in spades.
It's awesome. So what are some benefits that you've seen as a family by this lifestyle?
Obviously, the biggest is going to be the bond that we have. We had a challenge just because he was adopted at an older age. I didn't get him when he was a baby. I got him when he was 6.5. So when a baby hits 6, they've had 6 years with their parents, generally speaking. So
and sometimes with adoption, anyway. I mean, the cases that I've seen, there is like some detachment situations and abandonment feelings and stuff like that. So
it can be definitely. But just even without any extras in there, just the fact that at this age you've spent, like I said, if you're born somewhere, you've been with your parents the whole time. By the time you're 6, you've had 6 years together. And here he is 6.5. And, he had a couple of weeks of a few visits before he moved in. So, you spend, a few years just even developing bond that you would have had otherwise if he'd come into, your life as a child, as an infant. So we had a pretty good bond by the time we left because, his adoption, he moved in with me in 2008. We left in 2011. So, he had a few years to do some bonding with me, but really that's still not, 3 years old. Think about a toddler, in terms of how much time they've been with their parents. So,
and he was at school a lot too, right? So
he was, yeah. By the time a child reached 3, they've been with their parent pretty much all day long. I mean, obviously some have to go to daycare and stuff like that, but you have those steady connections, which he obviously didn't because he was in school, and each year you change school, and daycare has changes all the time with staff. And then you've got me. So yeah, I mean, it's just, we had a good bond, but now we're 24/7 together. And not only do we have all this time together, but we have all these experiences. And so that, I think that's the best thing is just the bond that we have is, I think, pretty strong.
Incredible. Yeah.
And I don't think we could have had that really to the depth that it is. I don't think we could have had that any other way. It would have taken a lot longer to develop what it is, but we have all this wonderful time together, and we have all these experiences and all these shared memories. And, he has faith in me and I have faith in him, and it's a pretty solid bond. And there's no doubt about where each other lies,
Yeah.
And you don't get that just doing your typical day-to-day thing. Not as well, I don't feel.
Yeah.
Especially if you're having to work full time and go to school and yeah.
Yeah, like I said, those schedules create a lot of stress and a lot of family dysfunction and stuff like that. Anyway.
Especially in teenage years, in the U.S. especially, where kids are, for whatever reason, we seem to have this thought that they need to be in every activity imaginable. So you have kids that are teenagers that go to school all day, and then they have their after school stuff that they do, their sports, whatever, classes. And then they do homework for, 1 to 3 or more hours, when do they have time with their family?
Yeah. Well, and then they develop such a strong bond with their friends that they don't even want to be with their family. It's really, really sad. So, what advice or encouragement would you give to somebody who wants to live this type of lifestyle?
You have to get past the fear. There's a lot of fear there, and it totally makes sense. So if you have to borrow someone else's strength, there's people like me which you can and go, okay, this can work. This can work. There's lots now. There's a lot of family bloggers out there that have all kinds of different styles. There's, Raising Miro, where they're much slower travel. They've been in a few countries, and they've lived in Peru, I think, for 3 years now. They do a different style. There's bohemian travelers that were like us, moving around more frequently, but they've stopped in one spot for a much longer time now. There's families that are doing short, where they go out for a few months and they come back home. So there's all kinds of different ways of doing this. You don't have to do one specific way. You can make it work for your life. It's your life. So you can make travel lifestyle accommodate what works best for you. The biggest thing, though, I would say is, don't think that any dream is ridiculous or unachievable, because it totally is not. You can accomplish, if you want to be like us, the full-time travel lifestyle, you want to do expat, whatever, there's ways of doing it. You absolutely can do it. And so I wouldn't be afraid to dream too high, because it sounds cliche, but I'm serious. I mean, when we left the States, I kind of secretly didn't think this would last more than 6 months. And here we are over 4 years later and still going strong. So I would say to really kick that fear out. If you're really serious about it, I would really encourage people to pick a date that they're going to launch, put the date on the calendar, tell as many people as they can, and constantly remind themselves of their date, because that helps you stay accountable and helps keep you on track. But it also helps make it feel a little real. Sometimes it still scares you, but it helps everything feel a little bit more real.
Kind of that push out of the nest.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I hear from people, though, which is so natural, and I went through it, is the fear. It is scary, especially if you have a lifestyle now where you have a solid paycheck or income, and the idea of going into a situation where perhaps things aren't so fixed, and you don't have the same home, and you don't know where your home is going to be next week, or you don't even know what country you're going to be in next week. That can be really unsettling. But it all irons out. So the biggest thing is, don't allow yourself to be afraid. You feel the fear it, acknowledge that it's there, and then tell yourself why it's silly. Get back into touch with someone else who's doing it, or a support system you have. We have a group through Facebook of travel families that are doing long-term travel, which is, some of them are doing it for 6 months, some are doing it for years, some are, indefinite. There's all kinds of ways of doing it out there. So don't let the fear hold you back.
Yeah, fear can be a halting thing, but it can, if you face that, you can really do some amazing things. So do you have any books or resources that you want to share that might help with that? Well,
there's my blog, which hopefully people find that inspirational. That's onedadonekid.com. And those are the numbers, not spelled out.
And your Facebook page, too, is awesome, because he shares a lot of travel experiences and the different articles, too, on that. I've enjoyed it.
Good. Yeah, I'm on social media quite a bit, as you can imagine. And I try to keep each account fairly unique so that people that are following on Twitter and Facebook aren't getting the same thing. Same with even photos on Instagram. I put stuff on Instagram that I don't share in other avenues, just because I figure if you're following multiple accounts, then you should be getting fresh stuff everywhere. So, there's definitely, and I'm very approachable. People can contact me through the blog, Facebook, social media, whichever. And I'm happy to talk people onto the ledge or down from the ledge, whichever needs to be done. And I do have some resources on my site as well. One of the big things we do is house sitting, which is an amazing way to travel.
Oh, yeah.
And in Morocco alone, I saved over $2,000 just by staying in someone else's lovely home, and had an experience that, who can say they've lived on an oasis in Morocco for 2 months?
Yeah. So how did you do that? Just find them on the internet? There's resources for that?
One of the websites online, there's a bunch of them now. When I first started, there were 3 or 4. Now there's a lot more. But I have a ton of house sitting posts on my site with some references and guides on how to get started and breakdown of different sites. So it is such a great way to travel. It's super great for families as well, because the children tend to need a little bit more stability sometimes. And so it's given us like a month or more to be in one spot, one home. He gets to have a bedroom on his own little space. And then we get to have access to pets, which we don't, some people do travel with their animals. We don't. We're animal lovers. So this gives us an opportunity to have some temporary pets that we get to love. And we're not for rent or lodging or anything. We get to live in a local area and really get to understand what it's like to live in this place and what the local culture is really like. We've been in some really fascinating places, had some interesting situations. In Yorkshire and in England, we had 38 laying hens that we took care of. So just all these different experiences, plus the budget savings, plus it's given us time to just settle in one spot and be able to enjoy absolute stability and save money. And it's such a great way of traveling. I really encourage people to do it, and it's growing. A lot more people are discovering the benefits of having house sitters, and the benefit for the house sitting family or person is wonderful. So I highly encourage people to check that out as an additional way of being able to travel, because if you're living in someone's home, you're not paying utilities or rent. You're just buying your groceries. You can save up quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Plus have amazing experiences. So it's an absolute win-win. And then they get someone taking care of their home and their belongings and their animals, and they're not having to pay extra fees for kenneling and all that stuff. So it's something that benefits both sides tremendously. So we do it quite a bit. We have sometimes we're scheduled heavily. This time we're not, just because we had some specific goals. Like my birthday is France's big day. It's their national holiday.
Oh.
And so they have fireworks and everything. And so ever since I was 8 years old and I found that out, I wanted to be in France on my birthday, because it'd be like the country was celebrating my birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
So we decided to do that this year. So that's, we're going to be, because of that, we haven't been able to book as much as I've wanted to for house sitting, just because of trying to get dates working around where we're going to be and when. And then there's the Schengen zone for Europe, which throws in another little hiccup at times. So, but we have a couple planned that we're already booked for towards the end of this year. Really happy and excited about. So we have other family friends that are having some really great experiences. Obviously, as you can tell, I can't say enough about how wonderful house sitting is. So
yeah, I'm going to definitely check that out. We plan to go on into Europe in the fall, and that's one of the main things you worry about is how you're going to provide accommodations.
Absolutely. Like we lived in the UK for 2 months total time, spending about $160 a week, just because we did house sitting. So I just had to pay for groceries.
Oh, wow. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for that resource. That's great.
On $100 or $160 a week, you got connection or something. So yeah, that's one of the things. Like we stayed in Australia for over a month, in New Zealand for over a month, because of house sitting. We could not have afforded to otherwise. So
wow.
It's checking out.
That's great. So what are some of your long-term goals? And then tell me what kind of legacy you hope to leave.
Well, I'm all about spontaneity, so I can't say that I have any long-term goals. Our longest-term goal, I would say, is that, Tigger wants to be more settled. He wants to be in one place for a longer period of time, go out on, shorter trips less frequently, and have a home to come back to. So that's really our big goal for right now, is just identifying where that's going to be. And because it also not only has to be a place we enjoy, but a place that won't make me want to pull out every hair in my head trying to get a visa. So that's really the only goal we have. Otherwise, it's just living in the moment. We tend to this year we are more booked for future dates than really we've ever been. And it's just because, we have some house sitting assignments, and I have this Paris thing I wanted to do for my birthday. Otherwise, usually if you ask me, how long are you going to be here? I don't know. So, long-term goals, I seriously haven't thought beyond. We need to identify a place where we can stay longer term. Yeah. So that's really pretty much it.
Sometimes when we set those goals, we set ourselves up to not follow that intuition as closely as we need to, and that keeps us safe sometimes. So,
and the thing too is, when you travel like this, you learn that things often change. If you haven't learned that through life already, travel will teach that to you. When we first went to Colombia, we were going to stay in a town called Medellin for a month, and we got there, and after a week, we were done with it. We got to Honduras. We were going to do, get my diving instructor ratings. We figured we'd be there 2 or 3 months. We stayed 8. We went to Prague for a week. We stayed 2 months and hated leaving. It's just, you just don't know. So I find it's just easier to go into things with the least amount of expectations and leave yourself open to the experience. And then that goes with plans, because we can just decide, tomorrow, hey, let's go to Thailand.
Yeah.
So we'll look up and see when the airfare is that we can do it. And we've changed continents, within a week's time of just deciding, hey, let's go somewhere. And so the next week we're gone to this other place. So I just really like to leave things open. I like to allow things to develop, and those things change. You get surprises like Prague, which absolutely did not expect to really enjoy that much, and absolutely fell in love with it. And Romania was the same way. I thought I would like Romania, but I didn't know that we would both fall in love with it. And Serbia did not. I just wrote about this this last week about rethinking the Balkans. I was really hesitant to even come here, just because of what you hear and you read, and people I knew back in the States who were from this region, talked about how cold people were, and they treated other people from different ethnicities from the same region really poorly. And I'm just like, plus we bombed the hell out of here. I'm just not. And, we came, and now it's on our list as a possible long-term base. Love it. So you just leave yourself open to the possibilities as much as you possibly can. I know it drives people that are control freaks and planning freaks crazy, but for us, I used to be kind of that way when I traveled, and now I try to leave things absolutely as open as possible, so that when an experience happens, a moment happens, an opportunity happens, you're as free as possible to just, jump on that wave and ride it. So yeah. I forgot the part B to your question.
Oh, what kind of legacy would you like to leave?
Oh, so I wrote a post about that as well. I have a few things that I ultimately wanted to leave for my son. One was to believe that magic still exists, in a big sense, not necessarily the Harry Potter sense, but I think when you stop seeing magic in the world, you're in trouble. So I always want him to have a belief in magic to some extent there. I wanted to leave someone who could see the beauty in the world, and that could feel attached to multiple people and regions and cultures, and not just one, who, when he interacted with people or met people, that superficial didn't exist. It was more about the experience. How did he feel about them? How did they treat him? That was more important than anything else. To also, one of the biggest ones I want him to learn was to value experiences and relationships above stuff. So those are I've got a long list, but those are really the big ones that I wanted to leave for him.
I mean, those are things that you just can't replace. I mean, you can't add something in there that would be a better legacy than that. So before we say goodbye, is there any final parting words of advice that you have, or maybe a favorite quote that you'd like to share? And then please give us your contact information, how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, in terms of getting in touch, easiest way is through the blog. There's a little contact us tab at the top. You can click on that and email me through there or through social media. So always happy to help people, hear from them, whatever. And then my mind just, my train of thought derailed.
And that contact is one
dad, one kid.com. And
okay.
Those are the numbers.
One dad, one kid.
Mm-hmm. And I do have some favorite quotes. There's a bunch that come to my mind immediately, but probably the one I think is the most appropriate, besides I would love for more people to adopt a live without regrets mentality. But there's a really old movie, and in there, the main character has this statement, which I just love. And she says, life is a buffet, but some poor suckers are starving to death. And I think that is so eloquent in it, because I see that a lot. I see so many people that I talk to that are stuck in the mentality of this current situation is what I have. They have these little blinders on. They can't see past it. And just, anything you don't like about your life, generally speaking, there's some things, you can't, but generally speaking, you can change. So don't be a creature of habit. Really think about the possibilities, and don't be afraid to dream big. No matter how cliche that sounds, it's so real. I'm living it. So you can do it. I really want people to do that. They don't have to travel like we do. Even if travel's not your big thing, that's fine, but have a dream and then chase it down. And I think if more people did that, we'd probably have a much happier world.
Oh, I would amen to that. Well, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I'm glad we finally connected. It's just been an honor to talk to you. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Talon and to find his website, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Also, be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list so you can receive notifications for our weekly audio blog, The Spark. We would love to have you join our program. Do so by going to the scheduling tab and become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website, theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you, so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.